Welcome to today's talk. I'm Rachel O'Mara. I'm actually based in our San Francisco office, but I like to have good excuses to come down to Mountain View every now and then and host authors here or in San Francisco. So today, I'm really excited to host Jonathan Robinson, who's joining us here from the world of the Bay Area in Northern California. Jonathan is here to talk today about his book, Find Happiness Now, and he's got a great hour planned for us, which includes things like music and sound effects and magic tricks and all kinds of tips on what we really need to find to be happy now. So just a quick update on Jonathan. So Jonathan's written over 10 books, so he is only talking about really one here, but there's another book here called Life's Big Questions that some of you've gotten, and there's additional books in his repertoire. They've been translated in over 47 languages total, and he has been over 250 million people have reached and have been through the programs, whether he's been seen on Oprah or CNN or reading books or things like this Google Talk. So please welcome Jonathan Robinson. Join me to welcome him.
Thank you for coming today. I'm going to begin with a provocative question. And that is, if you could download something on your smartphone, an app, that could stimulate your brain to feelings of ecstasy and happiness, would you plug into that technology? Yeah. How many people, yeah, okay. How many people would not? And how many people will not raise their hand no matter what I ask? A couple, yeah, okay, great. We may be in a position where we actually have to make decisions like that soon, because the future technology of happiness is happening very quickly, and I'm going to give you a tour of what some of those technologies are. But before I go into what the future is, I want to talk about how to find happiness now, and all you need is what's the magical substance between your own ears. Okay? So we may have different terms for it, but I think everything that we are doing is to be happier now or in the future. Whether you are trying to get a lot of money so you can be happy, or a relationship so you can be happy, that is what we're basically doing all the time. Now, you may have a different name for it. You might call it peace of mind, or contentment, or life satisfaction. But the reason you came to work today is because you think that by doing that, it's going to make you happier in the future. I'll remind you, if you have kids, the reason you had kids is because you think someday they will help you make you happier in the future, right? So that's what we're always doing, but I have good news and bad news. And the bad news is that we're really not very good at this skill. You know, in the last 100 years, our ability to be happy has not gone up at all. And yet the level of depression has risen by a factor of 10 in the last 60 years. Right now, 10% of Americans are clinically depressed. So it's an important skill to learn, since that's what we're always trying to do. Whatever your method is, whether it be money or relationships or meditation or yoga, you're always trying to get to this magical state of contentment, and we really are bad at it. So there's a lot of room for improvement. I think that's good news. And part of the good news is knowing that it is a learnable skill. But you know, technology doesn't seem to be helping, so we have to ask ourselves, is technology helping us? You know, we think technology is here to make our lives better. And in fact, I am very grateful to Google and my smartphone and everything else. But for a lot of people, the technology actually ends up being WMDs, not weapons of mass destruction, but widgets of mass distraction. You know, the average person watches 4.5 hours of TV a day. I watch almost none, which means that some guy in Iowa has to watch 9 hours to make up for me. I mean, sometimes I turn on the TV so that guy can step outside for a few minutes, you know? So we have to learn how to use technology, since we're surrounded by it, to actually boost our level of happiness rather than boost our level of distraction. And that is a skill as well. So we are taught in the American culture, that success leads to happiness. Does Donald Trump look that happy to you? If success led to happiness, he would be a pretty happy guy, right? He does not look that happy. I've met him, he's not. But the opposite is true. Happiness does lead to success. Happy people make $750,000 more over the course of their life than unhappy people. They live 9 years longer. There's no pill you can take that will help you live 9 years longer. But happiness actually can do that. Happy people raise happier kids. They take fewer sick days. Corporations pay me to talk about happiness because it helps their bottom line in that people become more productive. They also take fewer sick days. So there's a lot of benefits to being happy. And it's not something that is just a feel-good thing that makes you more selfish. In fact, happy people are more giving than unhappy people. So it's very important that people learn this skill and learn healthy ways of doing it so that everybody benefits from it. Now, the first key in terms of the skill of happiness is being able to know what your target is. Having it defined, because people define happiness very differently. For some people, it is a life of total serenity and relaxation. For other people, it's total adrenaline and facing fears and going for an adventure. Those are very different things. So you want to know what your specific target is because that will give you a better chance of hitting that target. I learned the importance of knowing your target when I was a freshman in college. My roommate was one of the best basketball players in LA, and he challenged me to a game of basketball. We put some money on it. And I said, I'll play you a game on one condition. I can bring out any 1-ounce gadget onto the court and place it wherever I want. He said, okay. He knew he'd beat me. So I brought out this 1-ounce gadget, looked a little bit like this, and I placed it in a strategic location, namely over his eyes. And I said, let the games begin. Now, admittedly, it was still pretty close. But I beat one of the best basketball players in LA because I knew exactly what I was aiming for. The fact that I had total lack of skill was not as important as knowing where the target was. So you don't want to climb the ladder of success only to find it's against the wrong wall. What is happiness to you? What does it look like? Because if you don't define it, your parents' vision of it will define it for you, or the American culture will define it for you. And American culture says that happiness equals a lot of money. But people who are rich are no happier than people who are middle class. So it's good to define these things. A second key, which you probably heard of, is to practice gratitude. Now, we've all heard that, but you need a really good, simple technique. So in the 90s, I interviewed a lot of well-known spiritual leaders for a book I was doing. I interviewed everybody from Mother Teresa, late Mother Teresa, to Dalai Lama and Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and all those people. And I was asking them for their best method for finding happiness and for finding a spiritual connection. And I was amazed at how many of them said that gratitude was a key. So a few years later, when I'd heard of an Indian guru who supposedly had this magical mantra for helping people experience overwhelming gratitude, I wanted to know what that mantra was. So I traveled 18,000 miles to India to talk to this guy. And if you've ever been to India, it is not an easy place to travel to. And then when I got there, going on a rickshaw for 3 hours, then I get to the ashram, and I had to wait in line 4 hours to talk to the guru. Finally, I get to him and I say, Guruji, I came all the way from America to learn your magical mantra to feel overwhelming gratitude. Please tell me. So he says, in his deep Indian accent, yes, my mantra is the most powerful mantra on earth. He said, normally I don't say it so quickly, but you travel all the way from America, I will tell you the mantra. I'm very excited, and he leans in to whisper in my ear. And he says, whenever possible, repeat the following words. The mantra I give you are the words, thank you. I go, that's it? Thank you? I travel 18,000 miles for that's it? He says, no, that's it is the mantra you have been using. That makes you feel like you never have enough. My mantra is thank you. Now, that's it will take you nowhere. Well, I was disappointed and pretty pissed off. But I figured I would I traveled so far, I would do what he said. So I told him, thank you. He said, no, you can't say thank you. You have to say thank you from your heart. Many times a day for each of life's blessings. So I tried. I said thank you, and I left there, and I took a taxi. And as I'm entering the taxi, I noticed it has air conditioning. It's about 105 degrees in India. I said, oh, well, thank you for the air conditioning. And then, I leave the taxi, and I put hand in my pocket. I have money. Thank you for my money. Then I go to the hotel room, and there's a bottle of clean water there. Thank you for the clean water, And then there's a nice toilet there. In India, good toilets can be hard to find, Thank you for the toilet. And then there was air conditioning in the room, and there was a shower. I took a shower. Thank you for the shower. And in this hotel, there was actually Wi-Fi in India. I was very thankful for that. Get on computer, Google. Thank you for Google. No, I feel that many times a day, And then on it went. And within about an hour, I had tears of gratitude going down my face. Because we live better than billionaires lived 20 years ago. We have access to all the world's information in our phone. We can talk to anyone in the world from anywhere in the world. For God's sakes, we have Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs ice cream never more than 2 miles away. Life is good, right? But if you don't have a simple method for feeling that gratitude, it all goes by unnoticed. I mean, how many days do we do that we have all these blessings and they're invisible to us? So a simple method like saying thank you from your heart for the people in your life, even the people that cause you trouble. If it weren't for jerks like you, I wouldn't know compassion. Thank you. So a simple method like that can help you tune into gratitude. We're also busy nowadays that it's nice to have methods that don't require any extra time. You're already taking a shower. You're already eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream. You're already eating free food, right? It just takes a moment to feel those blessings. So that's the second key. A third key is to learn easy ways to be happy. A lot of people in my parents' generation, their method for being happy was to work for 40 years, get the kids out of the house, retire, and then they could have a moment of happiness. Well, I'm not going to wait that long. I can barely wait a minute and a half. So we have to find ways that you can do in under a minute that help you to feel really good. My question is, does it pass the beer and remote test? People are watching 4.5 hours of TV a day. Why? Because all you have to do is move your thumb 1/4 of an inch and you get 500 channels. That's pretty good, right? Sometimes I don't want to move my thumb 1/4 of an inch, but still, I'm willing to work that hard. Or a beer, immediately feeling good, tastes good, and it alters how you feel. So we need methods or technologies for feeling good that are that simple. And I have kind of specialized in my book, Find Happiness Now. I talk about 50 of those methods because different people need different methods, different strokes for different folks. I personally am a Haagen-Dazs person. Other people are Ben & Jerry's. Everybody has different tastes. So you have to find what works for you. So for me, I have found that very simple methods, say, for example, like singing. It's hard to sing Twist and Shout by the Beatles and feel bad. Try it sometime. Or acts of kindness. Acts of kindness are one of the quickest and most powerful ways to boost your own level of happiness. Now, people don't always remember my lecture, but they always remember my magic tricks. So I'm going to do some magic tricks. Hopefully, you'll get the metaphor or analogy here. When we're born, let this rope represent the wholeness we have as a child. The problem is, as we get older, we can get cut off from that sense of wholeness and that sense of joy that we once had. See if I can cut through this. There we go. And soon, we're left feeling cut off from ourselves, the life's daily stresses. Well, when that happens, you have to find a very simple method that will tie those different parts of you together so you can feel whole again. Now, it feels like a method at first, but with repetition, something magical happens. And what happens, I'll use my magic wand here. What happens is suddenly you feel restored to that wholeness and completeness and joy that you had as a child.
Very good.
Well, thank you. You can applaud if you want. I'm okay with that. So in a moment, I'm going to guide you on what I call a 2-minute meditation. And in this meditation, I hope to reduce your stress hormone levels of cortisol for the next 5 hours. According to the Institute of Heart Math, that is the power of this next 2-minute meditation. I also hope to help you discover a way that you can be happier by you accessing your own internal guidance. Okay? So that's a lot to do in 2 minutes, but I like to work quick, so hopefully that will work. Now, to do this, one of the things that you'll be doing is focusing on a person or animal that you have great affection for. This is my cute puppy, Sophie. She's adorable. Although I love my wife very much, I often focus on Sophie because I have no baggage at all with Sophie, you know. So, but I want you to focus on a person or animal or young child that you have great affection for. And right now, where you are, you can close your eyes, get comfortable. This won't take very long. I'll play some background music. And we'll have you do a guided meditation in which I will guide you the whole way. So close your eyes, become relaxed. And think of a person or child or animal that you have great affection for. And imagine them giving you a look that reminds you how much you care about them. If you can, remember special times you had with this being. And if you can, just think of how glad you are and how appreciative you are that they're a part of your life. You can imagine holding them or hugging them if that helps you to feel closer to them. And just think of how lucky you are and how grateful you are that this being is part of your life and how much you really appreciate them. And you can even tell them inside your head and see how happy that makes them. And breathe in that feeling of care and gratitude as best you can. And from this place of a quieter mind, I'm going to ask you a question and just listen for any answer that might feel right. And the question is, what do you need to know or what do you need to do to be even happier in your life? What do you need to know or what do you need to do to be even happier in your life? Take a few moments to think about that. What else can you do to be happier in your life? And when you're ready, you can come back to the room. Slowly come back. That took about 2 minutes. Looks like some of you went out and smoked a joint during that time. You have that red eye look a little bit. That's the power of 2 minutes where you're actually affecting your blood chemistry radically for the next few hours through a simple method like that. And if we asked ourselves what I call power questions, questions that help us get in touch with what we need to know, like what do you need to know to be happier? Or who do I love and who loves me? These are simple ways to guide our mind in a helpful way. Because the mind, the human mind, is like Velcro for negativity. And we need it to be more like Teflon. So these simple methods and many others in my book or that you can get online or anywhere can teach you how to access the joy and happiness that we had a lot as kids. You know, I know a group of people who are really happy almost all the time. Unfortunately, most of them are under the age of 5. So we don't have to learn how to be happy so much as to let go of our negative habits of holding on to worries and problems and things like that. A fifth key to being happy is the ability to invest in relationships. The number one correlation to human happiness is the quality and quantity of your relationships. Not only that, the ability to be kind, the ability to connect with people. In fact, I'll give you an opportunity now to be kind if you want. I'm looking for somebody who would be willing to give me $5 or $10 on the condition that you will not be getting it back. Anybody at all, anybody who's kind. Just if you have $5 or $10 and you're willing to give it to me, just take it out and I will collect it. A guy has to make a living, you know. This man here looks like he has something. Yeah. Well, oh, okay, great. Oh, thank you. He beat you to it. Thank you for that. Yeah, well, I find that people who are willing to be the first to give themselves usually get back a lot more than they give. In fact, what I've found is that people who are willing to take that risk usually do rather well in life. In this case, they get back 10 times the amount, and you may keep that for being willing to take that risk. Let's give this man a hand. Usually I get a better response the second time I ask for money. I don't know why that is. Really, we are hesitant to take that initial emotional risk, but people who are willing to do that make those connections. You know, intimacy is one of the keys to happiness, but we're not taught how to do it. Luckily, the instructions are in the Word. Into me see. Vulnerability and human kindness are one of the most sought after things in the world today because the world is so mechanized and we're all so busy that moments of real kindness and intimacy we all crave. So being able to invest in your friendships, and you know, 300 Facebook friends does not equal one really good friend. Nor does a world of infinite and free pornography substitute for intimate or sexual satisfaction. And we have a nasty habit of using technology to think that we are connecting with people when really we're just getting the superficial, on the surface level and not getting the real meat or heart of what we're after. And that's why I say that you have to be careful of widgets of mass distraction. A sixth key to finding happiness is being willing to face your fears. You know, as you get older, it's really easy to get lost in security and a groove and a rut. And the only difference between a groove and a grave is a couple of feet, so you have to be careful about that. And being willing to face your fears of embarrassment, failure, rejection. And this is hard. But that is one of the keys to help make you a more expanded person. Now, I was really a shy person as a kid. I was so shy that by the time I was 17, I never actually had asked a woman out on a date. But it is possible to learn to overcome your fears relatively quickly. So what I did was I said, I'm going to get rejected by 10 women in one day. And if I do that, I will treat myself to a trip to Hawaii. So I went to the university bookstore, and I go up to a woman, and I'm literally drenched in sweat, beads of sweat dripping down my face. I'm shaking. I go up to a woman, and I go, hello? This poor girl, she looks at me, and she says, are you all right? Do you need an ambulance? She thought I was having some kind of seizure. I said, no, don't call an ambulance, you know. So obviously an awkward conversation ensued, and I asked her out, and she said, no, I have a boyfriend, but thank you for asking. I really appreciate that. Are you sure you're okay? Yeah, you know. One down, 9 more to go. And you know, when you face your fears, it gets easier and easier with each person. So by the 4th woman, I'm feeling like, wow, I'm breaking through a lifelong fear. This feels great. I could do this every Friday night. So I'm going through this, but the 7th woman ruined my momentum. By now, I kind of had a script, and I knew how it would go. So I said, hey, I'm new here. I haven't met many people. You look very nice. Would you be interested in going out sometime? And she said, sure. It was at that moment I realized I had no script for sure. So I said, sure what? She said, I'd love to go out with you. Really? Okay. I wrote down a number. Great. Now I feel really happy. And when you are happy, it kind of is like a magnet towards you. So the next woman said yes, and the next, 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 and the next. I had 8 straight dates. Now I had a new problem. I needed 3 more rejections or I couldn't go to Hawaii. So I figured I'd start acting like a jerk. So I go up to a woman and I go, hey, sugar lips. What do you say you come to my place Friday night? I'll show you a really good time. What do you say, honey? She looks at me, not unlike how you're looking at me right now. And then she says, sure. She figured anybody that weird or funny, she wanted to get to know. So that didn't work. But I threw in some water. I did my shaking routine. I got my 3 final rejections. I went to Hawaii. But most important, I learned that facing your fear is a learnable skill. And that you can overcome lifelong fears in an hour. People ask me, how did I meet Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, all these people? I said, well, when I was 17, I faced my fear of rejection. I took it from a 10 to a 5 in 1 hour. And that changed my life. So being willing to do that is really key. Fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of rejection. The big 3. Just out of curiosity, probably a lot of you saw the movie The Matrix, in which Neo is asked, do you want a red pill, which involves seeing the truth about yourself and facing fear, or do you want the blue pill, which involves being lulled to sleep, believing whatever you want? Just have a show of hands, how many of you Googlers would say that, given that choice, that you would have chosen the red pill? Raise your hand if you're in that category. Okay, good. And how many think you would have taken the blue pill? No, wow, okay, that's impressive. Must be a pretty fearless group. That's good to know. Okay. It's important to know that because that decision, whether you're a red pill or a blue pill taker, really determines the course of your life to a very large extent. 7th key to knowing how to be happy is to know your inner obstacles. As Socrates said, know thyself. And that involves knowing what's in the way of you being happier. Now, I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm very good at pinpointing for people their biggest obstacle in the way of them being happier. And I'll show you how I do this. What I need is a volunteer willing to come up and work with me. Raise your hand if you're willing to volunteer. Okay, great. Hold on just 1 second. I think something is very interesting, and that is, about a minute ago, everybody in this room was a red pill taker. And then when I say, would you like to take a red pill now and know the truth of yourself as something that's in the way of you being happier, there was only 1 red pill taker. Isn't that interesting? You may not be as dedicated to the red pill as you think. Because when I asked, would you like to face a small amount of potential embarrassment to know a valuable truth about yourself, 98% of you said, yeah, but not now. So one obstacle that you might have to being happier is that you have an ability to say some story in your head as to why now is not a good time to take a red pill. And that gets in the way of us being happier. So just think back. What did you say to yourself so that you didn't have to come up here? This gentleman here didn't have the same story or excuse that you did. And since he didn't, he gets a free book. Let's give him a hand for being brave. Really, now I'm an easily fearful person as well. I don't like being embarrassed, but I am aware of the story in my head that I always come up with for why now is not the time to take the red pill. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I transcend that story. But first you have to know what that story is, and you have to know that we're always given an opportunity to take the red pill or blue pill. It's not one choice you make, it's a choice you make 100 times a day. Whether or not to say hello to the person, whether or not to say what you're really thinking about them, whether or not to say what you want. Those are little red pill moments. And the more that you take it, the more expanded your life is likely to be. An eighth key for being happy is to master the meaning that your mind creates. I mentioned before that our minds are always creating a sense of Velcro for negativity. And we want to make it more like Teflon. How do you do that in the midst of life? You know, you get in a car accident, you think, oh, this is horrible. Well, we need to be able, in that moment, to change the meaning we create for things so that we don't feel bad for a long period of time. I'm reminded of a story, a businessman who once came to counseling for me. He shared this story. And he was kind of an arrogant, rich guy, and he said he was in Thailand traveling. He went up to a monk, and he said to the monk, well, if you're so wise, why don't you teach me a lesson about heaven and hell? So this monk looks up at him and says, teach you about heaven and hell? I couldn't teach you anything. You are like an arrogant man. You don't have a caring bone in your body. You even smell bad. You probably eat meat. You just don't care about anything. Just get out of my sight and stop wasting my time. Well, the man gets red in the face. He shakes with rage. He gets ready to punch this monk in the face. And instant before he throws the punch, the monk says, that's hell. Well, the man was just overwhelmed that this monk risking beaten up to teach him this lesson about hell. He unclenched his fists and then he bowed to the monk. And the monk said, and that's heaven. What I like about that story is that we're always creating our own moments of heaven and hell by how we interpret things. He interpreted the first words that I'm being insulted for no good reason, create a moment of hell. He took the same words a moment later and said, this person just taught me a valuable lesson and created a moment of gratitude. So how to do this in a simple way? Well, there's one question I use, and the question is, what could be good about this? What could potentially be good about this? I mean, take even something big, like you get into a fender bender. You don't think what could be good about this normally, but hey, maybe I'll meet this person. Maybe I was destined, I met my wife in a fender bender. That was useful. You could focus on, well, I might have been in a worse accident later. I might have been killed later. Now I'm not going to because I'm in a little fender bender. Or who knows what you might think of. Maybe this will help me to become a more careful driver. Whatever it is, we're always making up the future. We don't know. You might as well make it up so it's empowering. And a simple question like that can help do that. This is me doing magic for Syrian refugees a couple months ago. These are kids who have lost parents, lost limbs, and certainly lost a country. But in a moment of play and humor, everybody is smiles. That's the power of play and humor. And that's a skill. It's not a skill we have to learn. Every 3-year-old is playful. Average 4-year-old laughs 100 times a day. The average 12-year-old twice. So being able to enjoy play and humor. And we don't even play tennis as adults. We compete at tennis. We compete at everything. But play and humor is a tonic that makes all of life better. And to create an analogy that might help you remember this, I'm going to do one last magic trick. Could you throw this to any random person in the audience? Just so. Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, well, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a number between 1 and 1,000. Don't tell me what it is, and I'm going to write down what you're going to say. Okay? Now, this really is a random person. I want you to know that. I think I got it. Okay. I'm always a little nervous when it comes to this. I want you to speak up really loud so everybody can hear you. I'm going to ask you a question. Is the number 237? Yes or no? No. I wrote down what he was going to say. Pretty good, huh? You were not impressed, evidently. I can't tell you how I do that secret, but what I can tell you is it does have a point. And the point is I try to set up life so I have a very good chance of succeeding. When you bring play and humor into your life, you have a very good chance of succeeding at the game of happiness. So that's something you might want to invest in. And last but not least, 10th key before we go into the future is if you want to be happy, you want to learn how to dive into the now. Being here now is the greatest key to happiness. And most people think that they're already in the now, but mostly we're thinking of problems and plans and relationships in our chatterbox mind, and we never learn how to let go of that. So we need to learn how to let go of that and be here now. And be here now. And be here now. Now you may be wondering how many times I'm going to say that. That's part of being here now. Being with what your thoughts are saying about now. Being okay with silence is an important part of being here now. One that we're not very good at in this age where we can always have something going on. Learning how to relax and beyond the turmoil of our minds, finding the deeper ocean where peace actually always is part of being here now. And that's a skill that is learnable. Now we talked about being happy in the now. I want to now take you on a tour of what is likely to happen towards happiness in the future. And one thing to know is that the stakes are big because if we do this wrong, we could end up like rats pressing that bar in a cage, stimulating ourselves to have instant pleasure while everything else in life goes by. Rats will actually die pressing a pleasure button that is stimulating they're stimulating the pleasure center of their brain because it's so powerful. Well, it's not long before we are able to do that. And we want to make sure that we don't sacrifice all the depth of life for just instant gratification. And there's certainly billions, if not trillions of dollars at stake for people who learn how to help people feel happy, since that is what we're ultimately after. Now, there's 5 new technologies or approaches to finding happiness I want to briefly touch upon. And one of them, the first one, is what I call sensory and reality stimulators. And these are simulators. These are already happening to some extent. You know, the Oculus Rift, VR. Soon there's going to be full body suits that people can wear for virtual reality. There's other things like video games. You know, young people spend a huge portion of their lives watching video games now. Is that a good thing? I don't know. We're doing an experiment on humanity, though, in which a large part of humanity is spending most of their free time either watching TV, being on the internet, or doing video games. And these will get much, much better in the next few years. Much more addictive. And if you've ever read the book Reality is Broken, I think there's good sides and bad sides to be made to this argument. But it will be happening. And it will impact how people find happiness. A second key, this is even a little bit more scary. These are what I call brain enhancers. These are things like direct brain stimulation, or DBS, or happy pills, if you saw the movie Limitless or Lucy. Big Pharma is spending billions to find pills that make people happy, more alert, more productive. They've done some good ones now in clinical trials, and they're going to get better. Things like EEG. Right here, this came out last month. This is a 4-channel mobile EEG that you wear like this. It comes out on your smartphone, and it gives you an audio signal and visual signal as to whether you're moving towards peace of mind or not. $300 came out last month. It's called the Muse. Those are going to get better and better. Then there's things like transcranial magnetic stimulation, how to stimulate the brain magnetically to get to the pleasure centers of the brain. Or DBS, put an electrode in the brain right into the pleasure center. They do this for severely depressed people right now. Works extremely well. Right now, the people do not have control of their own brain pacemaker because they found that they were hitting that button way too often. Do you think somebody's going to figure out how to get control of that brain pacemaker? I bet they will. So these are some things that are going to affect human beings and will be available soon. Third technology is social robots and AI. If you saw the movie Her, you know that it looks like pretty good to fall in love with your operating system. That technology is probably 12 to 15 years away. There is a technology now called Roxy the sex robot, which sounds really gross, doesn't it? And so I talked to a guy who owned a Roxy the sex robot, and this had a big yuck factor for me. But as he talked, I'm going, well, that sounds reasonable. And he said something like, well, Roxy's always available. And then he said, best sex I've ever had. Really? And I said, how much is she? And he said, about $3,000, or as he put it, a lot less than my first marriage. Now, I didn't buy one of these yet. But you could see that as this technology, when Roxy talks, you can have a conversation with her, kind of like Siri. But that conversation is going to get better over time. And you can see that people, and in Japan, these robots are becoming more widespread, that these technologies of actually having relationships with robots is not that far away. And it's better that we decide now what kind of person we want to be, because technology has a way of creeping up on us. The average person now looks at their smartphone 110 times a day. But if you take down the bottom 10%, it's actually 190 times a day. 20 years ago, we wouldn't have said, yes, I wanted to be interrupted every 3 minutes in my life by something on a screen. Yet now we don't even notice it. It's accepted. So these technologies are getting better and better, and we have to decide, is this a good thing or not for us? According to Google's own Ray Kurzweil, by 2030, technology will enable us to process thoughts millions of times faster than today. With faster thinking, we can develop an idea or face a situation and immediately run thousands of what-if simulations in our mind, ensuring a correct decision always. This ability to never make mistakes will enhance our peace of mind and happiness. Basically, we will have artificial intelligence coaches that will help guide us towards better happiness. Well, we're not that good at it, so maybe that's a good idea, maybe not. Maybe it'll make us happier, maybe it'll make us more infantile, I don't know. But I thought I would show you what such a thing might look like in a Google search of the near-term future. And here's my version of that. Hello, Google. Hello. Wait, let me get this a little bit louder here. Yeah, hi, Google.
Hello.
I'm wondering, what can I do to be happier?
What kind of happiness are you looking for, Jonathan? Are you looking for a good time tonight? More peace of mind? More play? Or perhaps a romantic connection?
I think I'm looking for a woman who'd be a good match for me. Enjoy sports like I do.
Based on what I know about your taste in women, within a 10-mile radius, I've found 7 women who match your personality type and enjoy sports. They all could be a very good match for you.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Here's a picture of my favorite match for you. Her name is Kirsten. She's a therapist, like you, and she loves football.
Well, can you send me more information?
Already in your inbox. By the way, she loves roses, so if you go on a date with her, make sure you bring a dozen roses. That'll make a great first impression.
Well, thanks, Google.
Anything else I can do for you, sweetie?
Yeah, do you think this shirt goes with a sport jacket?
Absolutely. You're looking hot.
Well, thanks. I'll talk to you later.
I look forward to it.
Now, won't that be great? So what are you guys doing here? Get to work. Come on. I hope it will be great. I don't really know. But those types of things will influence how we pursue happiness in the future. And people are going to want technologies like that because, as I said, most people are pretty bad at learning how to be happy. A fourth key or technology is what I call high vibration emitters. These are devices, kind of like this one. This device actually emits vibrations that make people feel high and good. I brought my friend over here, Dr. Norman McVeigh, who invents devices like this. Raise your hand, Norman. And he has invented machines where he can get a whole room to get stoned at the same time without having to smoke anything. This technology is getting better, as with other technologies. And soon people are going to want to have access to that. This man with the afro down here, Sai Baba, he was a guru in India. He's gone now. But he could emit a vibration that if I was within a mile of him, I would feel a state of bliss. Now, when we are able to figure out what vibration that person is putting off and can duplicate it, that's going to be a very popular technology. I can tell you that. Now, a question we have to ask ourselves is, have the machines already won? You know, 10% of people are looking at their smartphone during sex. We consume over 7 hours of media a day. That's a lot of time. That's an average. You know, we check our phones an average 110 times a day, a lot more for many people. And we have to know, is this adding to the depth and quality of our life? In some cases, yes. And in some cases, it's an avoidance. We do it to avoid pain. And using technology or any distracted device to get us away from our humanness and from being here now, I don't think is a good thing. Will we have the ability to discern between those two? Right now, we're not doing such a good job. But these are important topics to talk about because we all want a life of depth. We all want the juice of life. And that, in some ways, is becoming harder and harder as these technologies progress. So our happiness challenge, actually I want to go into one more. I think I missed it here. Yeah. I want to talk about one more thing before I go into the happiness challenge, and that is that spiritual and psychological technologies are also progressing. That we are learning how to develop and help people towards peace of mind. You know, it used to be you were a Christian or a Jew, you were born that way, you stayed that way. But what if you could take a personality test that could say, this is going to help you the most spiritually, or this is going to help you the most psychologically? You know, technologies like neurolinguistic programming or EMDR or EFT, they all go by these very long initials. These are developing technologies that, as a therapist, I know can help people past trauma, help them to feel good relatively quickly without months of talk therapy. Same with spiritual methods, different types of meditations, different types of techniques for different types of folks. The integral meditation movement, integral spirituality led by Ken Wilber, all different ways to help people know exactly what will help with their shortcomings so that they can progress as quickly as possible. Now, part of our happiness challenge is to pursue connection and meaning, not just pleasure. To be able to keep our social bonds alive despite distraction. You can use Skype to connect with people you would normally not connect with. That's important. To be able to question if new gadgets are really making us happier. Now, I must admit to you that I am an addict. I love gadgets. Now, when I saw that people were looking at their smartphone during sex and having sex with robots, I started to feel a little superior. Like, oh, I don't do that. And then my wife suggested that I do a 2-day fast from anything with a screen. It was not pretty. I'm like sneaking looks at my smartphone while she's talking to me or something. It was very humbling and very difficult, but ultimately very satisfying. Now, obviously, we need to balance all these things if we want to be happy, because happiness does require balance. But having that as part of the conversation is important because the whole culture is moving towards bigger, faster, more, and bigger, faster, more is not always what leads to happiness. In a little bit, I'm going to end with a story. If you want to find out more about me, I have a website, Finding Happiness. It has a lot of free stuff on it, including happiness tips. I have the Find Happiness Now book back there. I have a 6 CD set on deeper happiness. I do coaching, seminars, blah, blah, blah. You can get cards from me, whatever it is. I do want to end with a story, and then we'll open up to question and answer. Many years ago, I went to see another guru in India. Looked like this, named Punjaji. And once again, you fly to India, you're jet lagged, you're a little disoriented. The moment I walked into his ashram, he said, "You, sit here." I go, okay. So I sit in front of this guy, and he looks at me really closely, goes right up to me, and he goes, "Who are you?" Well, I didn't know what the protocol was, so I said, "I'm Jonathan Robinson from the United States." And him and everybody in the room busted up laughing. I thought that was the wrong answer. And then he had compassion. He said, "No, who are you really?" And I tried different answers. I'm a husband, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, whatever it is. And he kept on saying, "No, that's not it. No. And finally, I ran out of answers. I just looked in his eyes, and his eyes were like sparkling diamonds. I started to feel like I was falling in love with this guy. And I felt like that choice between the red pill and the blue pill. You know, do I close up or do I let go? And in this case, I let go. And a wave of love just hit me. And before I knew it, I was just crying. I just kept crying. I couldn't stop crying. I never felt so much love in my life. And I'm sitting there practically drooling in his lap, crying. And as I'm in his lap crying, he taps me on the head. And he says something I'll never forget. He says, "This love you're feeling now is who you are. This joy you're feeling now is who you are in your essence. And your job in this world is to never forget that." So that has stayed with me. And I echo his words to you. Love is who we are. And your job is to get in touch with that. Because only if you get in touch with some peace and love and happiness can you really give your best to a world in desperate need and really give your best to the people you most care about. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you.
Questions? Anyone have a question?
I think from the presentation, the part that, especially for me, resonates the most, or I get more questions about, is when you talk about like what's happiness for you, or what are your fears, and like
what are your fears?
Yeah, and what is happiness? And I find that those are kind of like the biggest questions. And after many, many years, I still don't think that I know where to find the answer to that.
Right. One, with questions, you don't have to think so much in trying to find an answer. Sometimes the question is the path. How, I have the same questions I had, how to find peace. That's an ongoing question. Now, I keep on learning as I explore that question, but there is no final answer. There's better and better answers. They're deeper and deeper. So keep on exploring a question that resonates for you. I'm still focusing on how can I open my heart? There's not just one answer to that. That is a lifelong question. It's like a friend. And it keeps on, as I ask it, I keep on getting to deeper and deeper, more subtle and subtle levels of that question. Or how can I know gratitude more? Just keep that question alive in your life.
I've kind of been thinking about, just happiness in general for a few months now. I think I got caught in a rat race for several years just working and working towards that end goal, right? So
yeah.
Career development and all those things. But I was wondering if I think a lot of times we get caught up trying to find like pure joy and elation every day. Do you think some of the happiness is just kind of being okay with whatever it is at the moment, right? So maybe not this 100% number you're looking for, right? But like, hey, 80%, I'm pretty good most of the times. There's going to be some ups and downs. Do you look at it like that, or is there maybe...
Yeah, I look at it like that. And, everybody, no matter how happy they are, they have good moments, bad moments. Every now and then you'll find yourself in a good moment. That happens, right? Give it some more space. A lot of times you're happy. The other day I was enjoying my dog. I was petting her, telling her how much I love her. And then I thought, I got stuff to do today. I said, what could be more important than this? I'm loving this. My dog's loving it. I'm just going to sit here and keep on telling her how much I love her until I don't want to do that anymore. We don't even give our happy, joyful, intimate moments space. We're always moving on to the next thing. So one way to be happier is just to take the happy moments you have and don't go on to the next thing so quickly. But yeah, wherever your life is, you're going to have ups and downs, but over time, you learn to let go of the negative emotions more quickly. Think of the little kids; they let go of negative emotions like that. They can go from totally having a tantrum to fine in 2 minutes. Some adults, they have a problem with somebody, they don't let go for years. So you learn to let go of the negative emotions quickly, you give the positive emotions more space, and soon you'll find that you just feel better a lot more of the time.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.